in your life, it happens all the time where something that you didn't see coming takes you in a trajectory that you never would have went, but it leads you to the place that you needed to go. Sometimes we need to get a nudge from the universe. We just do. Sometimes we're so just built into our own theme of what life should be that we
should be,
can't get
right?
out of it.
But the should. Yeah, like Jonas will say, hey, let's not should on each other. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, I love that. Yeah, do not do that. We do not do that here on Open Relationships. No shoulding on each other.
There's no shoulding. That's right.
Hello. Welcome back to Open Relationships, Transforming Together. I am your host, Andrea Miller. I'm joined by my colleagues, Jonas Koffler, John Sundholm, and Brian Atkins, our producer. We also have an amazing guest today, David Ahearn, who has the most incredible bio. Thanks so much for joining. Can't wait to get in. There's a lot that we have to talk about. There's going to be a lot of laughs with you, I know. All right. David Ahearn is a national keynote speaker and best-selling author of 5 books, including Happy Accidents, The Transformative Power of Yes and Yes and at Work and in Life. Sorry, I botched that. And his latest Listen, Laugh, Connect, a comedian's itty-bitty guide to great conversations. David is a co-founder of the improv comedy show 4 Day Weekend. I love that. I want more of those myself, which is now the longest running comedy show in the Southwest. David recently hosted a show on Amazon TV called Yes and Yoga for 2 seasons. I've watched it. It is awesome. Talk to me about chakras. I'm now an expert, thanks to David. David was an entrepreneur in residence at TCU's Neely School, where he taught the principles of yes and we're going to be talking about yes and here too, to future entrepreneurs. He won a Lifetime Achievement Award for Entrepreneurship from NAACE. Whew, finally, David is based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, lives with his partner and 3 amazing children. David, thanks so much for joining us.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you. Hey, wow, that crowd is amazing.
It really is. They're loud. To be in my head and that loud, they're loud.
Yes. Full disclosure, I was way off on what this show is about. When I heard Open Relationships and I said yes and I signed on, I did not think it was about community. It's a completely different show.
You're ready to take your shirt off?
Yes, totally. My lady was right to my right.
We
were very excited.
Off right now, and it's fine.
They would be off anyway, but for Open Relationships, definitely they were off. You have to.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'm glad you dressed appropriately.
Thank you.
Or not.
Always.
You should have seen the dress rehearsal, really. I mean,
but I think
there you go.
Amazing. That's so funny. No, thank you. All right, let's get started. You've used comedy and the practice of yes and, which I'm going to say, full disclosure, your Tango, the publishing business that I founded and lead. We use it all the time. It has been so instrumental to how we problem solve, how we communicate. It's amazing. So you've used this practice to build an exciting and successful business as well. I really want to drive home critically a joyful life, right? Because a lot of times,
absolutely,
successful business and joyful life are like this rather than one and the same. Right?
Yep.
And you've done this by serving and entertaining others. And so it's like, dude, just freaking good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I'll come back as you in another lifetime.
Thank you. That's nice. Well, the important thing I do want to say too, especially when it comes to being an entrepreneur, it's important to work to live, not to live to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your work is just supposed to serve your life. And I think it's an important thing that we're not taught as Americans, and when we really start to live the life of our work is just serving our life, then things can change and shift. There's no question about that. And it took me years to learn that, actually.
Yeah, I love that framing, and same. I mean, guilty. In fact, I love the one of the phrases you use in your show, going from ego, especially for all you leaders out there, whether you lead a huge business or a smaller organization or you're in middle management. David talks about going from ego, the I, right, to we go, right? It's all about the we, right?
Yep.
I mean, isn't that amazing how it's like it feels like a well-kept secret, right? And to me,
it is, but as a leader, the thing is, and it always surprises me when you talk to like executive leadership staff, it's that are trying to control the outcome and the process to the point of harming themselves. It's like, what we come up with together is far better than what we come up with individually. And when you start to honor the talents and differences of other people as opposed to, slapping their hand for it, what you find is that we all end up succeeding bigger and better. Because the idea is we want the entity to succeed. We don't care about ourselves. I mean, yes, we want to contribute. We want to make our contribution to the whole, but understanding that my contribution is only in service of the whole. And that's the thing about improvisation, is that it teaches you to be in service of the whole as opposed to the individual. And it's critical because when you have that small shift in the prism in an organization, suddenly we're all in it together. And that's the great thing about improvisation, is a lot of people are like, aren't you afraid when you go out and improvise a comedy show? I always say, no. They go, but you're not afraid of the unknown. Absolutely not, because I have 6 or 7 other cast members that are stepping into that unknown with me. And we know we got each other's back. So there's nothing to fear, because the thing in life is that a lot of people think that saying the word no, it is, you're going to have to say no from time to time in your life, but no gives you the illusion of control, but it gives you the illusion of control at the expense of endless possibilities, because yes is the only thing that can lead you into the infinite unknown. The only way to change, the only way to grow is to step into that place you've never been before. And in the idea of improvisation, when you step into that space as a group and as an entity, then whatever's in front of you, you can handle, and you don't have to do it alone. And that's the basic tenet of it, what improvisation is, and yes, and. And when organizations start to apply this, they find their entire work atmosphere gets more harmonious. People start working together. We start, honoring the talents of others. And when we treat each other as artists and poets, and they do the same to us, what do we have then? We have artistry and poetry. And that's the way all of us strive to live our lives, And so it's something that came into my life that was not by design by any stretch of the imagination. I used to think improv was
how did you stumble upon this, or how did you land into
years
this?
ago? So I started out in comedy doing stand-up, and stand-up and improvisation could not be more different. Because stand-up is you against the world, and essentially what stand-up is,
it's super rehearsed. I mean, what I hear about like the superstar
very much so
comedians, just hearing about how stand-up is so rehearsed,
completely,
and so calculated, and the pay. I mean, it kind of stressed me out learning about it. I'm like, I can never be a stand-up comic.
Generally, and this is years ago, 30 years ago, it would take people 10 years to get their first hour. This was the metric behind it. So you're going into clubs, and to work an hour, I mean, 5 minutes takes a long time to create. So you're redoing that over and over. You're redoing the timing, every single aspect of it. You're refining. And that's the reason why what you'll see is it's just like with a band. You know how their first album is always amazing, and then their second album, you're kind of like, it was okay. Well, they had 10 years to make the first album. And it's the same with the stand-up comic, excluding some really great ones that can continually do hour after hour, which those are a rarity. But their first hour is usually the best because they're refining it so much. But the thing about stand-up is it's you against the world. And essentially what stand-up is you're tearing things down. That's what makes it funny, is you're pointing out the thing that you don't like, and you're saying why you don't like it. And that's generally how you create laughs. In improv, it's the exact opposite thing. Improv is a you had to be there moment where, as an audience, you are experiencing this for the first time, and you're co-creating.
And the last time.
And the last time. Yes, so it's 100% organic. It's beautiful. It's you had to be their experience. And that's the reason why it does not translate to television. You'll see it on TV and you go, it was cute. But when you see it live, it's like, no, it was magical, because this thing that they had in the first 3 minutes of the show came back at 68 minutes. And it was the most unbelievably organic thing that the audience had that aha moment together. And that's what makes it so beautiful. And so how do you bring that into your life? So you'll find, it's funny because my wife and I did do yes and yoga. The tenets and philosophies of yoga are so similar to improvisation. It's unbelievable. It's
that I think most people would say, wait a minute. It's like, what are the two things that don't belong? Improv and yoga.
Man, I'm telling you what.
Like ice cream and ketchup.
What does yoga teach you? It teaches you to be not only flexible in your body, flexible in your mind and your thinking. In improvisation, what do you have to be? You have to be entirely flexible in your thinking, because the 5, 6 of us are coming up with this conversation right now, and we're co-creating. We have no script. So we're improvising every single day. And if the 6 of us elevate each other and make each other look good, we're going to have a great podcast. People are going to watch the podcast. They're going to share the podcast, and they're going to say, you got to watch this. If we spend the 6 of us tearing each other down, we're going to have people who aren't interested. They'll click out of it. But by us creating and elevating each other through conversation and by making each other look good and, and sharing talents together, that's how we all succeed. And that's improvisation. And that's actually yoga. I mean, you know what? It's about the group mind. It's about we are all one. So they do have very similar similarities. It's fascinating.
It is super interesting, right? As metaphors, really. But like not metaphors in some theoretical way, but very actionable. Okay, so you were doing stand-up, and then you started doing improv. But how did you make a whole company out of it? And then, like, oh my gosh, you are mentoring CEOs and veterans.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got an amazing story as a teacher and as kind of a guru. So how did you go from the guy, tearing people down to like lifting people up?
It was a fascinating journey. So I did stand up for 7 years, and I toured around the United States, lived in LA for a while. And honestly, LA, I was just like, this place is not for me. I just didn't really connect to it. And I came back to Texas. And when I came back, I had 3 very good friends who are in an improv show, David Wilk, Frank Ford, and Troy Grant, very good friends of mine. I knew them from the stand-up world. And they said to me, we ought to do an improv show together. And I said, in true improv fashion, no, that sounds terrible. That's really what I said. I was like, that sounds like, because I really did. I thought the improv is so corny. It's rainbows and butterflies and, the world is great and all that. And my friend Dave is the most persistent people I know. He goes, no, let's do a show. He goes, it's going to be fun. And I go, I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it. And he said, do me a favor then. And I go, okay. He goes, will you at least be in the headshot? Because we only have 4 people on the headshot, and it's not going to look like it's not going to look like a comedy group. And I go,
they're not going to believe us. And they need your good looks. They needed your good looks.
Yes. Yeah. And so he called me that day and said, hey, we're taking the photos right now. We're across the street from you. Will you be in the photos? And I literally told him, I'm not taking a shower. I'm not going to do anything to my hair. And I'll walk down and be in the picture, and that's it. And if you see our first headshot.
Do we get a shot of that? I want to see that picture.
Yes, it's ridiculous. I will get you the shot. So I go down, I take the picture, and that's it. I'm like, good. Okay, you got your thing. Good luck. Well, the show was premiering February 28th, 1997. That was going to be the first show. A week before the show, I called Dave. I go, hey, man, when's your first show? And he said, February 28th, 1997. Or he didn't say it like that because he said it's next week. My friend Dave doesn't say the date like that. It's tomorrow, May the 19th. No, doesn't do that. But anyway, so he said, it's next Friday at 11 o'clock. And I go, oh, cool. I think I'm going to come out and watch it. And he goes, well, you better. You're in it. And I go, no, I'm not. I go, I'm not going to be in it. I go, I'm not going to be in the show. He goes, dude, you're already in the headshot. You can't not be in the show.
Oh, my God. Oh, rascal.
Yeah. He was very smart. Totally
David, you got hustled.
I totally got hustled. And you know what? I love my friend Dave. He's one of my dearest friends in the world, and I'm so thankful to him because
I love your friend Dave now too.
He's awesome.
He sounds like my kind of guy.
So that night we went to. I remember Dave and I went to a bar before the show at 11 o'clock, and he said, "I'm going to teach you what this show is." And I go, "What show?"
God.
And he goes, "I'm just going to teach." He goes, "I need you to host this show." He goes, "That's all you have to do is host it."
Oh my God.
And I go, "I don't even know what this is." And he goes, "I know. I can teach it to you." And we talked over a beer for about 1 hour before the show. And then the first night I walked out and did this show. I couldn't even imagine how bad it was. It had to be horrible. But so we did this, and he said, "Look, we're only going to do 6 weeks." He goes, "Will you at least do the 6 weeks with us?" And he goes, and then he goes, "And then you're free to go." Well, we did 6 weeks, but about week number 4, there was a writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram who came in to see the show. And he really liked it, and he did a feature article about us in the Star-Telegram.
Oh, wow.
And so everything started to blow up. We went from having maybe 25 people in the show to selling out. So when 6 weeks came, I told Dave, I go, "Okay, I did my 6 weeks. Good luck. Have fun. Best of luck on your journey." He goes, "You can't quit now, dude. We're selling out." He goes, "We're on a run." He said, "Do me a favor. Give me 1 year." He goes, "Give me 1 year." and let's see what happens.
Oh my God.
1 hour to 1 year.
1 hour to
I
one.
love
This guy is the greatest salesman in the world.
Totally. I
And
love this
I was
guy.
gonna say he's a master of foot in the door, door in the face.
Oh, dude,
Yeah,
you
totally.
have to have him on the show sometime because
We gotta get
you'll
him.
love him.
David, we want you.
So at our 25th anniversary, I told him, dude, I got it. That's it. I can't do this anymore. This is I
25
overstayed my
years later,
welcome.
he's like, I just need another century. I just need another century.
Yes, just another century. So that's basically how we got started. And then
oh my God, that's amazing.
And then you asked, how did we get to the point? We literally used the philosophy of yes and all the way through building the business is what it was. People would come to us, and say, oh, I really love improvisation. Do you guys have a training center? Well, we didn't have a training center, but we went, yes. And we have classes starting in about a month. Check the website and you can sign up. And then we started doing classes. Then a CEO came and said, you guys are really good at what you do. Have you ever thought about like hosting corporate meetings? Well, we'd never done that before. So we were like, yeah, and would like yours to be the first. And so it naturally and organically just began growing. And it's led to really amazing things that in a million years I never would have ever seen coming. Like many years ago when I was starting out, I was 16 years old, and I was riding with my father in the car, and my dad said, I told my dad, it was when I finally decided I was going to tell him I wanted to be a comedian. And so I said, Dad, I think I want to be a comedian. And my dad said, you don't know anyone in show business. And I'm like, well, I don't think that that's a requirement to get into. You don't have to know somebody to get in, Dad. And he goes, and to his great credit, he was a Great Depression baby. And so he did not think I should be doing this, but he said, hey, if you're going to go into comedy, at least be a writer as a fallback job. Because to my dad, writing was a fallback job, which I'm like, Dad, that's not a fallback job. Insurance is a fallback
that's
job.
hilarious.
So what ended up happening is many years, fast forward to about 2011, and we went and did a keynote address for Congress, the Democratic Congress. And
no way.
At that event, President Obama was there and Vice President Biden. And before I went down, I called my dad and I said, you'll never guess what I'm going to do. And I go, what? And I told him, and he said to me, he goes, you know what? When you were 16 and you told me you were going to be a comedian, he goes, I honestly thought that was the dumbest thing I ever heard. And he goes, and you proved me wrong. And it was just one of those moments where, yes, thank you.
Good job, Papa.
And that's kind of the way the whole journey has been with improv. It really has. It's just we said yes to things, and we kept open to whatever the universe presented to us, and it was oftentimes far better than what I would have planned on my own. So it's pretty remarkable.
Respect the yes. I love that, David.
Respect the yes. Oh, I got to write that down.
Respect the yes. Yeah.
Well, it's just funny because you started with no, and then Dave, over the course of a beer with David, you're like, nah, we're gonna do it, and then 25 years later,
yeah, it was, and Jonas knows Dave very well, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. He really, Dave is a very
he's a Jedi.
He is, and he has that yes and in his soul. The only other person I know who has an equal amount of yes and is Adi, my wife. She is the most yes and untrained person ever, to the point of where it frightens me sometimes. Because let me tell you a quick story real quickly. We're going to do a USO tour in for the troops, because in a very I get a name drop now, just so Brian isn't the only one who got the name drop.
Totally, we're all gonna just go gross in a little bit, but go ahead, keep going.
Brian, I'm gonna take your. And I'm going to name drop. So President Bush asked us to if we would do. Thank you.
It's like the fourth thing you've dropped so far, David. I'm not that anybody's keeping score, but you're like way up here.
I know, but Brian set the bar, and I thought I'm going way over. Brian.
You got to top it. I started high.
We're
talking dropping bombs, baby.
Mr. Producer, once he started dropping these. Anyway, so we go to do a USO tour. The weekend before we were going to leave, we're going to be gone for about 4 months. It's the day I met my wife. She came to the show with some friends. After the show, we always take pictures with people who come up, because they like to do that. So she comes up, and we are the exact same size, and we're both like eye to eye. Well, on this night, she had on 4-inch heels, so she comes up to take a picture. And when she took the picture, of course, now she's like 6'2". She decides she's going to crouch down so she can be at my eye level. Yeah, it totally humiliates me in front of people. I'm like, I'm with people here, for God's sakes, and I don't even know this woman. And I said to
Oh
her, I
my
go,
God.
you don't have to crouch down with those heels. I go, you may be taller than me with the heels, but my personality's 6'5". That's what I told her. And
Love it. Boom.
so we took the picture and she leaves, and that's it. That was all there was to it. And so I go backstage, and never before or since has this ever happened. Our musical director, Ray Sharp, says to me, hey, did you think that woman was pretty? And I go, oh yeah, she's beautiful. And he goes, do you want me to get her number? And I go, now, how would you do that? And he goes, I used to date her sister 10 years ago. And he goes, and I still have her sister's number. Well, what ended up happening was I got her number. She said yes, give him my number. When we went on the USO tour, I was texting her and I said, I'm going to be in Paris at the end of this. You ought to meet me there and we'll have our first date there. And she said yes. And I was like, oh my God. Like she totally called my bluff.
That's a big yes, Ann.
That's a big yes. So that was our first date, was in Paris. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Way to go. That is
power
amazing.
of yes and. There you go.
Yes,
I
and
thought you were going to
romance.
say, we're going to meet in Paris and I'm going to borrow shoes from Prince.
Oh, I like that.
You
That
can
would
tower
be good
over
too.
her.
That's right. But mine would have been from the band
That is
Kiss
so
from
cool.
the 70s. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, either one. That's
Yeah.
good. That is an amazing story, right? But that being genuinely open to possibilities,
Yes.
right? I mean, to your point, it is amazing how the universe rewards that, right? And I love about that, as somebody who has had trust issues in her life, it to me what underpins your ability to respect the yes is to trust. Right.
Trust.
And for a lot of people, that's hard. Right. And I mean, I took like feverish notes over here. I'm not going to have to buy your book now because I have it all written down.
That's good. You know what, Andrea?
No,
I will
but
send you the book.
only if it's signed. Otherwise, I can get it myself.
I will do that too.
But the yes, you said yes leads you into the infinite unknown. And
That's right.
that's scary as hell
It
for
is.
most people. Right.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
But
But-
that's
but
where magic happens.
Yeah, like look, when I said 25 years with the show too, I actually left the show. It was 2020, and I don't know if you guys know, the world had some things happen in 2020,
Yeah.
and it's just
I missed it.
I was
You might-
watching Yes and Yoga, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. But go ahead.
Yeah, you might. But the thing is that I knew kind of then, even before everything happened in 2020, that it was time for me to step away, and because I knew I had gotten all the nutrition I could out of that experience. I'd been there for 25 years. And was that hard and scary? Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything that I had built and been a part of, but I knew I have to practice what I preach. I've got to now take the next step so that I can grow and continue to grow. Because if you don't constantly challenge yourself and you don't step into that infinite unknown, you're just going to keep doing the same things over and over again. And you're going to keep repeating the same patterns. And what happens is people wonder why they get stuck. Like they're like, I don't get it. Like I can't get out of this rut. And I'm like, what have you done differently today? What did you do differently today that you didn't do yesterday? And 99% of people would have to say nothing. And it's like, yeah, I know. I mean, it's as simple as if you drive one way to work, drive a different direction and go a different route, because those simple things start to change the mechanisms in your brain to start to because we have to start looking for new possibilities. If we're constantly seeing the confirmed possibility that we already know how it's going to unfold, we will never grow. And so that's what the infinite possibilities is.
My therapist always says that brains work on quantity, not quality. So whatever's going through them the most often, that's what sticks. Good.
That's interesting.
And we all know this, that whatever you think, you become. Look, whatever's happening in your life right now is the end result of your repeated thinking. So for everybody who doesn't like the way their life is, what I try to illustrate to them is you have to change fundamentally the way you're thinking, because you are expecting an outcome and our bias is going to find confirmation of that, whatever that is. So our brains are constantly looking for confirmation of our thought processes. So if you don't like what is going on in your life, you have to fundamentally change your thought processes. And once you do that, and you do it over time, you will see the physical manifestation materialize in your life, but it does take time. So you do have to go through the period of fake it till you make it a little bit, because
you do. And trust the process, right, David? I mean, like the thing that comes to me is, and this is as someone who's had to rebuild neural tissue in a way that most people haven't after my stroke, is like it's neuroplasticity dipped in serendipity, wrapped in possibility. right?
Yep.
And to John's point about like the quantity over quality, 100% right. You need stimulation to exercise those neurons and let the magic unfold. That's where the beauty happens.
Yeah, there's no quite. Do you know, Andrea, you and I talked briefly the other day, and we were talking about Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I said is he's doing phenomenal work. If you're watching this podcast or listening and you don't know about him, learn what he's doing, because he is teaching people how to frame a new reality. One of the things that he talks about that I've done for years is creating a mind movie, where you literally create a mind movie, and I have nothing to do with this company, and I don't get any money from this, but it's mindmovie.com. What you do is you go in and you create, taking photos, things that you want to manifest into your life, and then you can put a song in there that inspires you, and you put all the pictures and the things that you are trying to achieve, and you make a commitment that you're going to watch that every day for, I say at minimum, 40 days. You will be absolutely amazed at the things that will materialize and come into your life. It's going to come into your life in a way that you don't see coming, and it's not going to look exactly like your mind movie. But the point of that is you're repeatedly training your brain to start thinking differently. And by doing that, by training your brain to do that, your brain now is looking for evidence of that. So if you're struggling financially and you start to believe in your heart, because manifestation is a simple thing. It's when intention meets belief. Whenever you intend something and you believe it wholeheartedly, it will manifest into your reality. So you got to think of like intention is the car, but belief is the spark plug, because once you believe it, it's going to ignite. And so maybe at the beginning, you may not believe that it's going to happen, in your heart and soul, but the more that you intend it and the more that you see it, then you're going to start to see it in your reality, and then you're going to capitalize on it, because the whole thing is that opportunities are there for us all the time. We just have to capitalize on them, and I do want to, like, this is a really cool thing that I saw recently. There was a photo that was put up, and if I put it up in front of you guys right now, I would say, I want you to count all of the items that are red in this photo. And it pops up, and you're going to see a cherry, a strawberry, an apple, and you're going to count it real quickly. And once it goes away, I say, okay, how many yellow things did you see there? And nobody knows. When you put it back, there's one banana. And why is that? Because you told your brain, look for the red item, and that's all you looked for. The banana was always there. You just didn't look for it.
The Germans have a name for that, Biedermeinhof, right? It's like when you learn a new word, and how suddenly you're seeing that new word all over the place, and you go, like, is it just here now, or is it always there, right? I mean, a little bit different. It's not exactly manifesting, but
it is in a way, because you're witnessing it. Everything exists in the universe right now. It's a matter of witnessing it. I was in a yoga studio once, and I walked in, and I told the woman who owned the studio, I go, oh my God, you got the most amazing books here. I said, these books are unbelievable. And she goes, something that's really interesting? Most people don't see them. And I go, really? And she goes, most people walk in and never see the books on the shelf because they're just not in the space to see them. She goes, you walked in and you were looking for books and you saw them. And I thought that's really fascinating. So.
Well, totally. I mean, what we notice, where we place our intention. And by the way, I'm also a huge fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza's. Joe, come be on our show. We want to spread your word.
You should get him on.
I mean, the data that he shares is compelling. I mean, what he's talked about, I think they've put like 9,000 people into MRIs, and they can show physiologically what's happening in the brain. He uses a cute little phrase, she's going to pop, right? Like there's like the that place, and I don't know, the cerebral cortex, wherever it is, starts to literally light up. Which, I mean, in fact, even talking about this makes me think about the something that you shared on your show about the chakras, and how the eighth chakra is an aura.
It is.
Right? And how, I mean, and he talks a lot about the energy in it all. Yeah. Right? So it gets, I mean, some people will go, that's a little woo-woo. I feel like just because you can't see it or measure it with conventional measurement tools, you can't knock it. Right? Well, because the evidence is compelling if you've experienced it.
Right. And the other thing I would say, too, is that you can't see gravity either. But if you jump out of a 10th story building, you're going to fall to the ground. I mean,
That's
there
right.
are universal laws that operate this plane. It just is. They
Yeah.
say there are 12 universal laws, and those laws are irrefutable. I mean, you have like the law of divine oneness, which is we are all one. I mean, these
Amen.
things are these are tenets and things. There's the law of vibration. There's the law of action, law of correspondence. All of these things. So. One thing that is fascinating to me is as I've gotten older, I've gotten over the idea that there is right and wrong in the world. There really isn't. It's just you're making a choice and a selection. And once you make a selection, you now have activated a series of laws, and there's nothing that can happen but for those laws to play themselves out. So in any situation, if you don't like the way something is occurring, take your attention away from it, because wherever you're putting your attention, that is what's going to grow. So if there's something you don't like, that's the reason why I've always, thank you, Brian. Thank you.
And, just to add to that, they say the grass is greener on the other side. One of my friends say the grass is greener where you water it.
There you go. Absolutely.
Hey.
Where was the applause on that, Brian? Come on, little applause for her, please. Come on, give it up for her. Good God, our producer's falling apart back there.
I know. Our producer just took a nap.
Yeah.
Hey, David, I hate to cut into, I wouldn't say Pollyanna is a word you like, but there are also people of the other persuasion who may say, well, it's fine and dandy, but that doesn't apply to my life.
And I would agree with them.
It's a no but life, right?
Yeah, I would 100% agree with them. The difference is that I would say is they would take no responsibility for where they are. I would say, yes, it's not in your life because you have had a systematic pattern of thinking that has continually brought you the same evidence over and over again. We have to fundamentally change the way you think. And back to what John was talking about, you have to have more thoughts of belief in the possibilities than you do in disbelief of the possibilities for there to be seismic change. It has to occur. And the thing I would say to them is, you have had a way of thinking your entire life. The universe has corresponded to your way of thinking your entire life. And so if you're willing to change and be open, we have to start fundamentally changing the way you look at life. And then you're going to see the physical manifestation. But I'm a great believer, you have to take the first step with the universe. It's definitely a dance, but the universe is waiting for you to dance.
And even more than the dance, David, it's also, I know you and Wilk and Frank and Troy are, as founders, are also huge advocates for the idea of the risk and the fulfillment in life being about the leap.
Absolutely.
Not the landing, right?
Absolutely. Frank talks about that a lot. He always says it's not about the landing, it's about the leap. You got to take the leap. You're going to land somewhere, but you got to jump and you got to go. And if you don't jump, you're going to stay in the same place. And is it scary? Yes. But guess what? We're all afraid of it. So that should make people feel empowered. It's like even the greatest entrepreneurs in the world are terrified. They just are, but they're willing to take the risk to just go.
And I think you start like any muscle, right? Where certainly for me as an entrepreneur, that feeling of fear and overwhelm, it changes over time, right? Where you learn to trust, right? Yeah. And there's a cycle that you develop where confidence and success beget confidence and success. You just have to have a tolerance for some missteps and failure along the way. But if you can tolerate that, and a lot of people can't tolerate, that's back to what did you describe? Taking the leap into the infinite unknown, then then you never do it.
Right.
But if you can, then if what I've experienced, and I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs would agree with this, the universe starts, it's back to the universe rewards the yes, right?
No question.
Try this. And it becomes cyclical, right?
Yes. There's no question about that. And the thing is that I think great entrepreneurs, they enjoy the game of it too. They understand that, there's going to be some setbacks. Like we're talking about, we live on a piece of family property that's like 5 acres, and it's been in the family for a long time, and 2.5 of it is commercial. And we've come to this point where we're like, we gotta do something with this commercial. So we're talking about putting a little coffee shop on it to build some community in the city. Cool. I said, let's have a place where people can come and have a cup of coffee and talk. One thing that's kind of going on is my wife and I have both said, let's not be afraid of the game. Let's just embrace the game. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be, city council may try to stop something, and you can make up all these things that might happen. We'll deal with it when we get there. Just enjoy the process of it, because that is the whole key, is that don't worry so much about the destination. Begin the journey. I mean, that's critical.
And drink a lot of coffee.
And drink a lot of coffee, yes.
I was going to say, inveterate coffee drinker here. Let me know when it's open. I want to come and be one of your first customers.
I hope you are. I will give you a book and a cup of coffee. Yes.
Amazing. That's going to be it's going to be worth the trip. Let me ask you this. Usually I ask this a little later in the show, but what you described is something that I've really tried to embrace in the relationships in my life, and through the relationship coaching and so forth. I've been developing a framework called Uninvited Buddhas, right? And an uninvited Buddha, typically it's a person, but it can be any setback. It can be a condition. It can be an experience in our lives, maybe our relationships with our bodies, right? A lot of people don't feel comfortable, with their own bodies, unfortunately. And so I think of an uninvited Buddha is a really important teacher that typically we resist, we resent, right? And they keep coming back, right? So when I think of starting a coffee shop or almost any venture where there's going to be that setback, that frustration, and so many people resist it. They just want it to go away. It's a pain in the neck. It's it is, it's an obstacle, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is for, the real Buddhas in our life, they are teaching us something if
Absolutely.
we can just be open-hearted and open-minded enough to get it. So talk to me about one of your uninvited Buddhas. Is there somebody that comes to mind?
It's fascinating you say that, because honestly, I live my life doing exactly what you said, is that when somebody comes into my life, and if I don't necessarily maybe like how it's going, I always ask myself, what are they teaching me? What is inside of me that they are showing me back to me? And so I really try to make a point of never getting in the point of saying where I don't like somebody or I'm blaming them. Do you know about the Hawaiian prayer called Ho'oponopono? Ho'oponopono is
I've heard of it.
It's a beautiful thing, and essentially what it is if somebody's coming to you, and if somebody's sick around you, if somebody is or is troubling you in some ways, they're showing you something that's inside of you. So what the Hawaiian prayer is you say, "I'm sorry," because you're saying, "I'm sorry that what is existing inside of you is also existing inside of me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to see it." And then it's, "Please forgive me. Forgive me for this thing that is inside of me that is also inside of you," and that's how we are connecting. And then you say, "Thank you. Thank you for bringing this blind spot to me. Thank you." And then the final thing is, "I love you." And what you do is by healing that thing inside of you, that Buddha that you're talking about, that wonderful teacher, that Buddha will see you heal and will either move out of your life or adapt to this new reality that is you. So I'm a great believer in taking personal responsibility for whatever is going on. Like if somebody honks at you in traffic, where was your attack thought that came first? Because I'm a great believer in the attack thought. You had an attack thought, and they are responding to your attack thought. I've done it in my own life where somebody has come up to me seemingly out of nowhere when I realize after reflection, no, I had the attack thought first, and energetically, and it may not even be necessarily at that person, but that person energetically understood that I attacked, so therefore the attack was coming back to me. And these are higher level type things, but if we are trying to change community and we're trying to change the way people are behaving with one another, we have to take responsibility and assume that whatever is going on in the outside world, I'm responsible for it, and it's up to me to fix it, no matter what.
Bingo. Yeah, bingo.
It's fascinating. I shouldn't tell you this on a podcast. We don't even lock the doors to our house. We really don't.
Oh, I'm totally coming over and pranking you. I'm totally coming over and pranking you.
Well, now I'm going to move once this podcast comes out. But I'm just
exactly.
No one, because honestly, I really do believe we have so much more power than people really understand.
That's one of my favorite phrases. We all have so much power than we realize.
We do. We have really unbelievable power. And so for everyone who is lamenting about the state of the world, I say to them, change your world. And guess what?
Yes.
When you change your world, you're going to change the world. But the goal is not to change the world. The world is going to operate. The world is going to, we live in a dualistic plane. It's a plane of polarities. It's hot, it's cold, it's high, it's low. It's always going to be there no matter what. I got news for people. We're going to have war in this world. It's the way it works. But we don't necessarily have to put our attention on war. I mean, Mother Teresa said so famously one time, somebody asked her to go to a war rally, and she said, I will not go to a war rally. I will go to a peace rally. And because
David?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to stick with, but I want to make sure we talk about in the spirit of Mother Teresa and in spirit of kindness, loving kindness. It maps to Ho'oponopono as well. But this idea that you can make a change in your community. And I think it's really important that we think in terms of kindness, and your example of like indelible example of how Secret Blue Butterfly came to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
about that journey of relationships. You're really building relationships through kindness. So I want to hear more about that, because I think it maps to what you're talking about.
So in 2014, my kids, they were young at the time, they were probably 10, 11. My daughter was probably 9. We decided to go for a bike ride, and we were riding through the park. And as we were riding through the park, we looked down, and on the sidewalk, somebody in beautiful chalk had created this beautiful like a mosaic. And it said, kindness is a language the deaf can hear and the blind can see. And so we stopped and we looked at my daughter, I think she was 9 at the time. She said, Daddy, who do you think did this? And I go, I don't know, but it was such a beautiful act of kindness. I go, look how that they touched our day, and we have no idea who they were. That's really cool. And she goes, yeah, it really is. And I go, hey, I was just thinking, wonder if we did something like this. I go, wonder if like we did one kind act a day, and we just see kind of what the ripple effect was. And I go, maybe we could leave something to let them know that they were visited by something. And in true yes and fashion, I go, like Secret Santa does that. And my daughter goes, well, what should we do? And I go, you remember when we were in Costa Rica? I go, what did you love more than anything? And she goes, the blue butterfly. And my son goes, I got an idea. It's the secret blue butterfly. I go, yeah, what we can do is, I go, we're going to, I said, I'm going to have Brenda, who is our social media person and did all our graphics and stuff like that. I go, I'm going to have her make little cards that say Secret Blue Butterfly. You've been visited. This is a random act of kindness. I go, we'll get Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And I go, we'll set up a website. And I go, let's just start doing one a day and see what happens. And we did. We started, would put $5 on, would take $5 on somebody's car, would buy somebody a cup of coffee. And,
cool.
And then we gave people the chance to write in and get their own butterflies. And within 6 months, that had spread to 80 countries. People were writing in, showing where their butterflies.
Holy smokes.
The thing that was the most powerful for me is my kids got to see that from the very beginning. They were a part of creating that kind of thing. And I said, that one act of kindness, there are people all over the world doing it just because you took the initiative, just because you took the chance. And we all have that power. We can all do that every single day of our life. But we have to take the first step. No one else is going to do it.
Totally. I mean, I feel like just to first of all, that is amazing. Applause for that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Love it.
Brian. Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
And I mean, just this whole notion that we're all so often we're waiting for the other person to make the move, whether it's in a marriage, like we're waiting for them to change, we're waiting for them to do better. In so many, relationships, it's like like you say, we've got more power than we realize, and so many of us misplace it, and we don't want to make the first move. But what you're saying, it's incumbent upon us to make the first move.
It's imperative that we do.
I mean, it's like the Gandhi quote of "Let change start with me."
Yes.
Be the change that I want to see. Right.
Do you know? A couple years ago, I was hosting this thing called Military May. It is for the military, and I host this thing. And I was interviewing a guy. His name was Kenny Thomas, and Kenny was one of the soldiers that was part of Black Hawk Down. Remember when Black Hawk Down crashed?
Oh yeah.
He was one of the boots on the ground soldiers. And so I asked him. I go, when that was happening, what went through your mind? And he goes, I saw the helicopter go down. I knew our pilot was there. And the first thought that went through my mind was, somebody should do something about that. And then he goes, and then the next thought that went through my mind was, I'm the somebody. What am I? And he goes, and instantly I started moving. And he goes, so I think it was 6 or 8 of them went in and they were able to extract that pilot out of the plane and essentially save his life. And so what he always teaches when he speaks is that somebody is you. And if we all start to just take that attitude and stop waiting for everybody else and we start doing it ourselves, then we're going to start to see the change that we want. And I think that I think there has been a systematic messaging that has been conveyed to people over time to intentionally try to take our power away. They've intentionally tried to divide us. They do it through the media. They do it through movies. They do it through TV. They do it through social media. They create a lot of things because essentially what the powers that be that hold, we're talking about a very, very small group of people who have power and money. Okay. The last thing in the world they want is a united populace to say, we're not going to do this stuff anymore. 7.8 billion of us have incredible power over 10,000 people who are running the world. And we can make that kind of change. It just means we stop separating ourselves. I mean, and that's the thing.
Yeah, totally.
We are far more alike. Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much.
Community.
I'd like to give a round of applause to Brian, the producer, if you guys don't mind. Big hand for Brian.
Yeah, round of applause for Brian.
Brian. He's doing awesome.
You are doing awesome.
Brian, we could not have the applause without you.
Yeah, no, we totally couldn't. I love that.
Andrea just has like a tiny desk concert going on.
I know, I totally do.
On the other side of the desk.
all those people. I want to come back to when you and I were chatting the other day, because when you talk about like how we all have so much more power than we realize, we have to act on it. This whole business of unity and oneness, and for some it sounds very utopian and impractical and unrealistic, right? Which I feel is utter bullshit, right? I think it's a choice.
Well, even if it is utopian, what's the matter with that?
Well, totally. Exactly. Yeah, why not? Why not have peace on earth now? I mean, right? And
what's the matter with that? Do you prefer war and strife?
Yeah.
I've always find that really interesting that people have no problem watching movies about killing people and horrible things, just terrible things that people are putting into their mind. And I'm like, what's the matter with seeing people do nice things? I don't understand why that's a bad thing.
It's like the Elvis Costello song. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? It's really simple.
It's so simple. And honestly, I think there are far more people like us that are afraid to say it out loud for appearing to be, as you said, what was the word you used?
Pollyanna-ish.
Pollyanna-ish. That's
Pollyanna-ish.
right. And I'm like, maybe we need more Pollyannish people. Maybe we need more.
Oh, totally. Well, that's why we're leading a movement,
right?
David. We're leading a movement,
totally.
Right? I mean, fostering the human connection. Totally. And I like it used to be cool to maybe be divisive and to be a rebel. And my son and I are actually listening to Tom Sawyer right now. It's an audio version. It's amazing. I just read it. I love the. Oh, wow. Yeah. Small world. Like he's, it's so cliche to say he's a literary genius.
Yeah.
It is such a joy. I'm laughing out loud the entire time.
Yes.
I mean, talk about the ultimate OG hustler.
Yes.
It is Tom Sawyer.
Do you know, I actually just finished Huck Finn too. I did back to back. And then I hit To Kill a Mockingbird right after that. I'm in this, I'm into this Southern genre apparently.
Well, yeah. I mean, and but even, when I think about when these boys were allowed to go swimming and they'd smoke and they'd drink and it's like when they could do that without any resistance, it wasn't cool anymore.
No
right?
question.
And so it just, when I think about how we are socially conditioned, right? I mean, I feel like that is a factor and maybe in people just not wanting to be vocal about their beliefs. And I also feel like our lives have been hijacked by technology and so many distractions, and we're all so freaking busy.
Yeah.
Right. So we may be thinking these things, we're just too busy.
I was thinking about, it's fascinating because I heard you guys talking about technology. I will not use technology at the beginning part of the day, no matter what. And I mean, get up early.
Good for you.
I'm up before the sun rises. I do a meditation practice and things like that. I think if the more you put those phones down, the more you go to dinner without a phone, Go to dinner without a phone. It used to be we always used to eat dinner without a phone. Always. I don't know when it changed that this became acceptable when we're eating dinner. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's so. I mean, in so many ways, it's just rude, right? Like you're so distracted, and the social fabric, that convention of like how we expect to behave with each other, where we actually attempt to pay attention. In fact, I want to come back to your book, Listen, Laugh, Connect, because I feel like you talk about this whole business of listening. It's like, I mean, what the frick?
Yeah.
It's like, and you're right. I mean, it has become so normalized to do that. It takes, I would say, and open relationships team, let's come up with a challenge or something that we are committing to knock it off.
Yeah.
Right. And I have 2 kids, and I'm so guilty of being on my phone.
So you want to hear a good one that some of the kids do?
Yeah, let's hear it.
So, I mean, this is actually probably old now, but everyone would go to a dinner and you all put your phones on top of each other. And basically, whoever is the first one to grab their phone to do something has to pay the bill.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Oh, that's a gateness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, it's a decision, right? And I feel like we kind of ultimately become, creatures of habit and yield to, kind of this perpetuated new norm where we're all just using our phones and it's somehow considered acceptable, but it's just not acceptable.
It's also now what we're built to do. That's what it always makes me think of. We're built to connect and talk over dinner. Like that's what we're built as humans to do. It's like putting regular gas in a diesel car. Like we're not built to sit and scroll on a phone when there's another person across from us, but it's become the default. And I think that's a huge part of why we have these issues, like you were talking about at the top, about people feeling very lonely and very disconnected. And because we've gotten into these habits that as human beings, I don't think we're really built for.
No, we are built for connection. I mean, biologically, I mean, when I think about from how we co-regulate by looking each other in the eye, to touch, to we co-regulate with our energy and emotions, right? And I feel like we are all so complicit. Like, let's be real, and it starts with me. Like, we are so freaking complicit in this breakdown, right? I would say it's especially bad for parents, and and I guess I don't know. I feel like we need to be really disciplined so that we're not doing this anymore, right? I mean, we do it for ourselves and we do it for the people that we're with, but to hold that line, right? Because I'm guilty of it all. So often I'm on my phone or my computer while eating a meal and my kids are right next to me, and it's so lame.
You know what's interesting about that, Andrea? I mean, imagine a world where we humans, animals, didn't have phones or devices, and instead our pets did have devices and were addicted to those devices and using them all the time. What do you think we would say about their behavior? We would say they're addicted, and they're insane.
Yeah.
They're so far away from their natural behavior as animals. So there's something really broken here and wrong. And I think the same holds true for us.
I'm trying to get a visual of my cat roaming around here somewhere. Maybe we'll get a picture of her on the screen, like glued to a phone. I'd be like, Cupcake, what's the matter with you?
Watching cat videos.
Yeah, all day long. Yeah. All right. I want to come back to your book. Congrats on your 5th book, David. Listen, Laugh, Connect. We talked about some of the tenets of that, but I'd really love for you just to give the rundown, because I feel like there's so many good actionable takeaways.
Right.
So can you just jump in there?
Yeah, the way this kind of came about is I would be backstage at events a lot of times, and executives would always come up to me and ask me, "Don't you get nervous walking out on stage?" And I was like, "No, not really." And they were always surprised by that. And they said, "Would you write a book sometime and just explain even how to help with conversations?" And I thought really it's very simple. Like, if you think about it, if we break communication down 4 steps. Number 1, listen. It is the most critically important thing we can do. How many times have you truly felt really listened to? Like somebody really looking you in the eye and listening and hearing what you're saying. It's not very often. We really don't. The second thing is you want to build on the pertinent information of the conversation. You don't want to make the conversation about you. You're actually co-creating a conversation, and you're sharing information back and forth. One person gives a perspective, you give your perspective, but you don't try to hog it. These, again, are improvisational techniques. The third thing is you elevate the conversation, because it's people, a lot of times, most people don't know they're being negative, but people, if you listen to their conversation, you listen to how they speak, most times it's very, very negative. And if you take it upon yourself to just to take it and be a little bit positive and see the good thing that can come out of anything, as opposed to tearing people down or gossiping or doing these other things, instead of gossiping, creative elements that can make the world better, your conversations better. And then the last thing is just laughing. I mean, we've got to get back to where we can laugh once again and not take ourselves so seriously. We have gotten to the point where everybody's offended all the time. You can't say anything. Nobody can joke around anymore. Everybody's getting their feelings hurt. I'm not saying you be mean or you be malicious with people, but I think all of us need to start just lighten up and have some fun again. You know, I think that is a critical element of it. And so that was the idea for the book. And I when I titled it Listen, Laugh, Connect, a comedian's itsy bitsy guide to great conversation, because I was like, I'm not even going to make this long. I'm going to make this a 50-page book because
oh wow,
because I that's all it's 50 pages, because I was like, I want everyone to be able to read
I'm
this.
definitely reading it. I wasn't sure before, but now I'm definitely reading it.
Well, and the idea was that I don't want people to say you can't do it, because anybody can read a 50-page book. And I honestly believe that's how simple we can make conversations again. We can just get back to those basic things. And when we do, when we take responsibility for our own speech and how we talk, you know, what's funny is that if you change the way you approach conversations and you start to elevate them in a positive way, it will probably not instantly change all your conversations. It will take time. But if the people that are around you start to notice that you've changed the tenor of how you speak, they will change the way they speak. They won't even know it'll happen. It's going to be a very gradual thing. I'm going to talk about real quick. This is an interesting thing that I read once. Do you know Byron Katie's work?
Oh, I love Byron Katie.
Okay, she's
love
wonderful. Her. Okay, she has a book called...
We need Byron Katie on the show.
You do.
Okay, let's keep going.
You need all these people, and you need to get rid of me, honestly. Honestly, there are so many...
No, we want you back.
There are so many really great people that you need to have on... Byron Katie, she's a great believer. Her big thing was loving what is. Whatever is happening is what's happening. And her big thing was, if I don't like something that's happening, change myself, and it will change. And she talked about how... She talked about how she would get so frustrated with her kids because her kids would just leave their socks in the middle of the living room. And she would tell the kids...
It was a religion. It was like, what was it? Well, how did she describe that?
I can't recall exactly, but I love...
All right, but it was something like, but how she phrased it was really funny and relatable to a lot of moms and dads.
Yeah, and she said it would drive me crazy, so I'd say, pick up your socks, and they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And then she said, I finally realized, they don't need to pick up their socks. I need to pick them up, because the socks are bothering me. They're not bothering them. And she goes, so they would leave their socks on the floor, and I would go by and I would pick them up and I'd put them in the laundry. They'd leave them on the floor. I'd pick them up. I'd put them in the laundry. They did it forever. And then finally one day, they stopped leaving their socks on the floor because they started realizing, they started seeing my behavior and that it bothered me, and they changed on their own. She said, but it's because I changed me. And I noticed it with my kids once, as I started just going, I guess it's my job to do the dishes every night. How do I know? Because they're in the sink and no one else cares, and it only bothers me. So apparently my job is to do the dishes. So I started doing the dishes. And you know what? They changed and they started doing the dishes. And even now, I cook, our son does the dishes. It's a teamwork type thing. We don't even talk about it. He knows that I'm outside cooking dinner and I do it. And then I come in, and by the end, he's at the kitchen sink doing dishes.
No, I love that. But to me, what's so profound, and I would say, I can almost say it sounds sanctimonious, but I would say I'm almost a Byron Katie scholar, because I've read her work and I've studied it and I've practiced. I mean, crucially, I've practiced it. And what is interesting to me is if you go to the degree that she is espousing, the change that you make, it is I'd say massive change in energy, right? And I mean, my husband and I our marriage has transformed. I say this quite sincerely. If Sanjay was here, he'd be like, and my friends are like, because I've been bitching and moaning about him for a long time. I mean, he's wonderful in all these ways, except for when he's not, right? For all you married people out there, like your spouse amazing, except for when you want to kill him. I need a fork, fork in the neck. And so my friends have been asking me, because I've been like, oh my gosh, like our marriage has never been better. And they're like, well, like, what's going on? And I joke, and it's like, oh, I changed. And it's like, I'm the last place I looked, right? And let me be clear, there's no abuse or anything crazy, but it is, for a lot of, we're both very big personalities and pretty intense. And it was just this like vicious round and round where we both felt hurt, and we didn't give each other enough love. And it's like the bumper sticker, the beatings will continue until the morale improves. So what I would do would be like, oh, I am not feeling loved enough, or I'm feeling like he's just whatever he's doing is wrong. So then what I would do is retreat and block him out, and guess what he's doing? Like, by the way, it's not improving the relationship. Now he's really hurt and really freaking pissed off. Right? Is he treating me better? No. Right? So I use it's like really, back to we're in open relationships here, folks. I say this about my marriage and how it is applied to the relationship with my kids, with my parents, with so many people that I care about, where there was, again, that uninvited Buddha thing, where there was a disconnect. And I felt whatever, maybe not even angry, but just somehow disconnected, or there was some kind of tension or frustration. So I really want to place that exclamation point, David, on what you're saying in terms of how even some of those, the thorniest relationships in my life have been improved by a really adapting and not just like, hey, not just I'm going to read about it, like I'm going to do the work. And she calls it, Katie calls it the work.
Yes.
I'm going to internalize it and make that change, right? Because I feel like what I used to do would be kind of like, all right, I'm just going to listen and, kind of tolerate what he's saying, or, whatever is going on with my kids. But there's a whole, I don't want to say quantum because that's such a cliche thing, but there is a whole other level of, oh my gosh, let me genuinely accept this, right? And it doesn't make me a doormat. Like it is so profoundly empowering to say, same with the socks. Like I'm picking up socks at my house, but I don't have the venom when I'm picking them up. And I feel like it's that energy, right? And it makes me think about at your house too, because you weren't doing the dishes pissed off, and your son felt like, I got to believe something energetically was happening and does happen at your house, just like at my house.
Absolutely.
Where it's like, I'm showing up differently. And that there's something really profound that is game changing. And it's real, but that change, and my whole point, you're like, oh my God, she's talking forever.
No, not at all.
It started with me, right?
Yeah.
And
well,
so I
yes,
love that.
and the other thing that I liked, I liked what you said is that for your audience, everyone needs to understand we are energy. That's what we are. We are made up of energy, and that's all we are. So knowing that, what do you want your energy to be? Because everyone on the planet is reacting to your energy. So if you have that uninvited Buddha that's coming in, they're reacting to your energy. Thank them as a teacher, because they are coming to you and showing you a blind spot that you cannot see in yourself. And when you start to honor them as a teacher, not only are you going to transmute the relationship and make it better, but you're going to heal yourself, which is all this is about. The one thing I love about Byron Katie, there are 4 questions, which I know you know it. The first question in any situation, when you begin thinking something, is it true? And when people are really redlining and they really are, they're hanging on to their feelings, they're going to say it's absolutely 100% true.
He is an idiot.
That's right.
He definitely is an idiot.
He's an idiot. It's 100% true. The next question is beautiful because it's like, can you know 100% certain that he is an idiot? And if you're being honest, you would say, well, not 100%, but 99.9.
Not 100%. Right
Not
now,
a-
I got to
but
confess, maybe
now-
he's not being an idiot.
Maybe he's not being an idiot. Maybe he has a point of view. The third thing is, when you think the thought that he's an idiot, how does that make you feel? Angry, upset,
Shitty.
blah, 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 shitty, dead. You're going to listen.
Yeah.
And the
Like
fourth,
a victim. Like, how dare he do that to me?
how dare, and then
Right?
the fourth one is the most beautiful. What would you be without the thought that he's an idiot? Free. That's right.
Free.
That's right.
Yeah.
You would be free. And then not only that, your common humanity would start to settle in, because look, we all have unique perspectives. And even though you may not understand your husband's unique perspective, he has a point of view.
Yeah.
And it's about trying to understand. And it's okay for him to have a point of view that's different than yours. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, just because we're married doesn't mean we have to believe 100% what the other person thinks about everything. But we can honor their differences, their different opinions, and that's the big thing. And that's why her work is really, she was one of the big ones for me. She put it in tangible terms, how to do that deep inner work with 4 simple questions. So if you get her on the show, congratulations, because she really she's doing great work as well.
David, thanks so much for bringing up Byron Katie. She is such a guru. She's such an amazing teacher. So for anybody who's not familiar with her work, Loving What Is her seminal book. I think she has maybe 3 or 4 others. But yeah, and I would say, I mean, as I said just a few minutes ago, don't just read it and put it aside. Practice it. She describes her teachings as the work, and it can be transformative if you really, like yoga is a practice. That work, and there are others that do similar kinds of things. A little bit of it, like what I love about her is her framework is very actionable, right? But I think there's a lot like in Wayne Dyer and Marianne Williamson. I mean, there are a lot of really wonderful teachers that even with Joe Dispenza to a certain extent, right? I mean, there's a lot of teachers that are kind of pointing folks in the same direction, but I do particularly fancy her very simple and compelling way of breaking it down. And to me, it's the most empowering thing, because it brings it back to, what am I doing about it or not doing about it? Right? So it's profoundly empowering.
I use this all the time. In fact, my friend Frank, he thinks it's my quote because I say it all the time, but it's not. I always say, I'm a lover of reality. How do I know that was supposed to happen? Because it did.
Yeah.
And when you can put it under that prism, you get so far less reactive. Look, you either have a belief that this universe is perfectly orchestrated, or you don't. It doesn't matter which one you believe. But if you do have the belief that everything is perfectly orchestrated, and my prayer that I say every single day is, bring me today whatever's for my greatest good and the greatest good of all. Well, if something happens throughout my day that I may not like, quote unquote, I always know, how do I know that was supposed to happen? Because it did. And it's answering my prayer. This is for my greatest good and the greatest good of all. So therefore, I accept it. And I really think that, and no matter what your faith construct is, you either believe you're alone in this universe, or you believe that we're one unified field. If you believe we're one unified field, what I certainly do, I know that everything is being orchestrated perfectly for everyone on this planet. So therefore, it's not my job to worry about what's happening. My job is just to show up, do the best I can, and be a lover of reality. And I think that when you can change that prism, it can change your world in profound ways.
Yeah, it is absolutely empowering to have that perspective. Right. I would just add on to that quickly by saying, what I've learned as I always say type AAA, controlling Aries, that when those things where I'm like, oh crap, here it comes again, not what I wanted, not what I expected. Wisdom, most people as they age become a little wiser, at least we try, to take that longer term view and say, okay, this feels really tough. It's not what I wanted. But let me see how this is going to unfold. Let me just trust that there is something around the corner, and that corner may be long, maybe several months. But what I have found in my life is taking that long-term view, again, it's underpinned. I'm not sure why I'm pointing with I'm pointing to people with my pen. Sorry about that. But underpin. I mean, it really is underpinned by trust, right? By
Yes.
saying, okay, and it may even suck right now. Like I might just be righteously pissed off, but if I can kind of breathe and go, I can trust. I can't see it now, but I'm going to trust that there's this thing that's going to unfold for me, or my family or whatever, for us, for the greater good, like you say,
Yes.
down the road, that it's a buffer to the, oh, God damn it, I'm a victim right now. Like that happened to me. And that is not fair, right? I mean, it just boom, puts you in victim mentality.
But all you have to do is change the preposition from to me to for me.
Exactly.
And when you change the preposition, and our first book was called Happy Accidents, and the whole idea behind happy accidents in an improv scene, a happy accident is the disruption of the routine. That is actually when an improv scene is going to get good. It's when something that you didn't something you didn't expect to happen, the disruption of the routine, that's when a great improviser is like, that's it. We call them happy accidents because in your life it happens all the time where something that you didn't see coming takes you in a trajectory that you never would have went, but it leads you to the place that you needed to go. Sometimes we need to get a nudge from the universe. We just do. Sometimes we're so just built into our own theme of what life should be that we
should be,
can't get
right?
out of it.
But the should. Yeah, like Jonas will say,
should.
hey, let's not should on each other. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, I love
totally.
that. Yeah, do not do that. We do not do that here on Open Relationships. No shooting on each other.
There's no shoulding. That's right. And it's could. You could do this, but you shouldn't do anything. You could do it. You have the choice to do it. And that's what I think is really important. And so it's just, again, all of this is just changing the prism of how you're perceiving things.
Amen.
If you can just get out of this whole I'm a victim, poor me, blah, blah, that story that you can tell it, but you don't have to.
Hey, David, now that you know I'm going to punk you and go to your house and you decided to move after this call, can you just be my neighbor here?
I will.
I promise I won't punk you here. I just want you to be my neighbor.
Yes, I'm going to move next door.
That would be amazing. Then we could have these conversations in person every day. Okay.
And that's why it's great you guys are doing this show too.
Yeah.
Because this is bringing this awareness to a lot of people and a wide swath of people because there are people... they're seeking this out. People want this. They really do.
Yeah, no, it's important to, for people to realize that they're not alone in feeling these ways, right? And so forth. So this whole idea of we're trying to create a really big tent where people belong and that they can laugh along with us and go, okay, I'm not the only one that's telling the truth and feeling these ways. Okay. Tell me, and we always ask on the show, Open Relationships, what's an unpopular opinion that you'd like to share with our audience?
The one I talked about it earlier because I thought about this and that this is unpopular, but there is no right and wrong in this world. There really isn't. I know people like to get wrapped up in that, but there's really not. I mean, I'm a great believer in karma and karmic things, and I have a very untraditional view in that I think we live several lives and we're going to live every permutation of our experience, meaning that if we harm somebody, we are going to be harmed. If we murdered somebody, we will be murdered. So there's a certain karmic imprint that's in all of us. So whatever is happening to us, we deserve it. And I mean that in the meaning that we did certain things that put us here. I know this is not a popular thing, but you asked me.
Yeah, it sounds like you might get some hate mail after that.
There is, but again, it goes back to radical responsibility, which we talked about, is that it's taking radical responsibility because so many people want to say, this person's wrong and I'm right, or this is wrong and this is right. No, everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And you, through your perception, are choosing what it is you get to experience every day. So if you don't like your life, it's up to you to change it. No one is going to do it for you. And I know that's not popular, and I know people don't like to hear it because that takes a level of personal responsibility.
All right, I've got one more question for you, and I'm hesitant because I feel like we could talk for hours. But you are such a passionate advocate for you as a yoga instructor, as a leader, as an author, as a genuine sort of torchbearer for joy and well-being. for you, a must is breath work. So can you just talk about like, is there one in particular that you're like, you know what? Just do this one, right? Because it can be overwhelming that there are so many.
Yes.
So just give us some like actionable takeaways so that we can start doing breath work without feeling like we have to do a lot of research or that it's impossible or we're big dummies and we're doing it wrong.
Yeah, it's very easy. And by the way, there are 2 keys in life, and it's your awareness and your breath. That is where all your power is. And if you want the most simple, basic breathing exercise, it's alternate nostril breathing. It's very simple to do. You're literally going to inhale left.
I'm going to do it with you.
Inhale left, and then close off the other nostril. Exhale right. Now inhale right. Close off the nostril. Exhale left.
Okay.
Inhale left. And keep doing that for 5 minutes. Just keep going, 3 to 5 minutes.
How strong are we supposed to be inhaling and exhaling? Like, should I be like blowing boogers all over my...
Please not on the equipment. Please not on the company equipment.
Brian, for heaven's sake, blow your nose before you do your breathing exercise.
Okay, so you didn't tell us that, David.
I take pretty deep breaths. I do a more advanced form of that, but you're just doing a deep inhale, and because what you're doing is you're trying to balance the sides of your brain. I'm not going to get overly yogi with this, but you're balancing. And the thing is people always say, well, what are the benefits of it? You're going to sleep better. Your digestion's going to be better. Your mental clarity and acuity is going to be better. It's going to improve all those things. And at a more profound level, what it does is it gets you in touch with your personal truth. It really does. By devoting some time every day to sit in silence and have a breathing practice, your truth is going to end up coming out. And then what the byproduct of that is things that don't serve you anymore will naturally fade away. Some people quit drinking. Some people quit smoking. I mean, it's just, and it's
maybe
things
we can
that will
quit
just
hating, right? Maybe we can quit resisting, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm pretty unaware of the breathing exercises and the benefits it causes. So this is very fascinating to me. Like, is that where you would start as a newcomer? Is the nostril or like, okay?
I would do, honestly, that's a great breath to start, alternate nostril breathing. Adi is a yoga meditation teacher, and whenever somebody is just starting, that's the one she always gives. She always says, just do alternate nostril breathing. It's able to, like I said, you're going to balance both sides of the brain, and most importantly, once you've sat for 3 minutes or 5 minutes and you've done the breathing exercise, take another 3 minutes just to sit in silence. And your brain is going to race. It's going to happen. Don't worry about it. Pay no mind to it. Like, don't energetically connect to any of the thoughts. They're going to come, but let them pass through. And just and if you can, witness your thoughts. Just witness them. Just as much as you can, witness the way you think. And even if you can get to the state where you laugh at your thoughts, where you're like, how funny. I was just mad at the neighbor because he turned on the leaf blower. What do you know? And just by taking some time every day in silence, you're going to see gradual improvements. You really will. And I always recommend highly to people, journal a couple sentences every day. It doesn't have to be long or anything. Just say, today I did a breath practice and my mind raced all the way through it. The next day, I did a breath practice and I hate this. I can't stand this. The next day, hey, what do you know? It was actually pretty good today. Because what you can do is you can go back and you start to see the path that it takes to start to reclaim some of your own truth. And I mean, I can't say enough about having a practice. I didn't have one for most of my life, but once I got one, I would never not do a practice in the morning. There's no way I would get up and meet the world without doing it.
That's amazing. I think I would just add to that by saying I am not surprised, but how often I hear, and I think of myself as in this industry, right, kind of the wellness industry, we're a leader in relational wellness. How many people will say to me, I don't know how to meditate. I can't meditate. I suck at meditating. And I'm really frustrated with our industry of which I am a part, that has done a terrible job of educating people what it feels like to meditate successfully and to have a successful practice. So I love how you describe that. And I want to summarize here what you're saying is, and especially I think a lot of people are like, frick, I can't spend 20 minutes in the morning. Like, I got to get my kids to school. I got to get to work. I got to make breakfast. I got to make the bed. I got to shower, right? Nobody, like a lot of people like, I don't have time.
You know what I'd say to that, Andrea? Do you
Tell
have
me.
20 minutes to watch TV?
Oh, they do. David, of course
and
they
that's
do.
what I'm saying. If you can't do it in the morning, and they say that, and they feel that that's a legitimate thing, say, I totally get it, man. It gets busy and you like to sleep in. Absolutely do that. But tonight, instead of watching Friends, try this. Instead of binge watching whatever, try this.
Right.
Because again, we both know, Andrea, that's an excuse.
It's totally. It's a total excuse. It's back to the, nobody likes to be called a victim, but it ultimately is a victim mentality. But what I was going to say is, what I love about what you shared, you don't even necessarily need 20 minutes, right?
No,
if you do 3 to 5 minutes of the nostril breathing, 3 to 5 minutes of sitting inside, just sort of reveling in a little quiet, right? And how few of us give ourselves that quiet. And then just to write a sentence or 2 or 3 or a paragraph in your journal, you can do that sub 10 minutes. And it's not torture.
Yes.
It's not torture. Because I feel like a lot of people feel like meditation's a torture.
Yeah, and I can understand that. The thing really at the heart of it is that I think people intuitively know that if they start to do a practice, they're going to change, and people are terrified of changing. They know they're going. I mean, because it is going to. You will change.
Yeah, one of my favorite catchphrases is that everybody wants to transform, nobody wants to change.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So change is hard.
I saw this great cartoon. It was a 2-panel cartoon, and the guy says, "Who wants change?" And everybody's raising their hand. And the next one is, "Who wants to change?" And no one's raising their hand.
Exactly.
Totally. And that's just it.
Totally.
That literally summarizes what it is. And it's like, the thing to me is, like you said, 3 to 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be, if you can do, just sit with yourself 3 to 5 minutes and watch how it grows, because it's going to be something that you're going to do, and it might take 3 weeks, but before you know it, 3 minutes goes to 5, and 5 goes to 7, and 7 goes to 15. And the thing about it is that there is a very famous yogi who says having a sadhana, which is a spiritual practice or a meditation, is the great giver of time. And you want to know why that is? Because you do a practice, and everything that is not serving your highest good starts to fade out of your life.
Oh,
television
I love
shows
that.
It's the great giver of time. So when people say, I don't have time to meditate or do a breathing practice, I say to them, you don't have time. You don't have time not to, because it is the great giver of time. Yeah.
The great giver of time. I love that. In fact, my sister-in-law, her name is Sadhana. So Sadhana, I have a whole other appreciation for you, sister. So that's super cool.
Yeah. That's a beautiful name. Sadhana is a spiritual practice. Oh,
in fact, it's her birthday today. So happy birthday, Sadhana.
Well,
you're a blessed one.
I want you to tell Sadhana, that on her birthday, I did sadhana today at 3:45 a.m. Yeah.
Amen.
So there you go.
That's it.
Amen.
That's what we all need to do. Well, this is we're going to wrap up an amazing episode of Open Relationships. Thank you so much, David, and team over here, John, Jonas, and Brian. You gave us so many actionable takeaways. I've taken pages of notes. Everyone's like, please don't repeat them all. I won't repeat them all. I'm going to just pick a few of the ones that have really stood with me or sort of resonate with me. The first one I'd say is the power of yes, respect the yes. A yes leads you into the infinite unknown, right? That's where magic happens. Yep. I love you said create a mind movie at mindmovie.com. Little compliments of Joe Dispenza. You talked about in the Black Hawk Down, somebody should do something about that.
Yes.
Make that somebody me. Right?
Let's
take more responsibility for what we can do to be part of the solution. And again, you said a ton more that was amazing around listening and the tenets of you only mentioned 2 of your books, Happy Accidents and your newest book, But just even concluding with the 2 keys to well-being, one being awareness and 2, breath work. So just making that your daily practice. If you can do it in the morning, great. If you need to do it at lunch or in the evening, the 3 to 5 minutes of alternate nostril breathing, it's super straightforward.
Simple.
It takes as little as 3 minutes a day. And if you can just sit quietly for, ideally 3 to 5 minutes to do the alternate nostril breathing and to sit quietly. I've started doing that more in the morning. It is such a gift. I so look forward to just having that quiet time before things get crazy. So I love those takeaways. David Ahearn, you've been an amazing guest. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I trust you can buy your books at Amazon, anywhere books are sold.
Yeah, and I have a website, daviddanielbooks.com.
Amen. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great.
I got applause again. This is awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, folks. That's a wrap of Open Relationships, Transforming Together. Stay tuned. We've got some amazing guests coming up that we are so excited to feature on the show to get their actionable takeaways, to really engage and work to transform together. We have I always forget what I'm supposed to say now. You can find us at Open Relationships at yourtango.com if you want to write to us, give us feedback. Brian, people can follow us, they can like us. What else can they do with Open Relationships?
Yeah, they can subscribe, they can drop a like, comment down below if there's anyone you want to see on the show, or as you pointed out, we are doing some coaching sessions on the show itself. So if you want to be a call-in guest, you can email us at openrelationships@yourtango.com. So thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much.
Respect the yes.
Respect the yes.